found The Naked Truth. Lively discussions about business, marketing, and personal development for small business owners. No hype, just help.
Happy Thursday! Guess what happened? No
happened?
more LinkedIn.
What?
No more LinkedIn.
You quit?
So what had happened was LinkedIn, like if you guys gonna go and look for my account in LinkedIn, my profile, you will not find me anymore. You'll find all the fat coins in Israel, but not my account. So LinkedIn has blocked my account, restricted it forever, permanently.
Get out of here.
Completely.
What did you do?
Completely. And then I'm like, come on, let me in. And they're like, no, there's too much activity on your account. And I'm like, okay, well, let me back in, and I won't use it as much. And
So what? Because you're like they're one of the sites that we stream to because you're streaming every day.
No, it was automation. They don't like automations. And which to me is really funny because it's like, look, obviously there are a bunch of marketing companies out there who are doing this stuff for people, which you know. And there are other software like HubSpots that automatically posts to LinkedIn, which you know, because business people don't have the time to do everything manually. So they create it, they schedule it, they post it, and LinkedIn doesn't like automation into their accounts. And so they've restricted my account before, and they're like, hey, we see too much activity. And so I'm like, okay, I'll use it less. So now it was like, hey, too many profiles are being viewed from, like your account is watching too many profiles. I'm like, and we're protecting our users' data. I'm like, how are you protecting the data? It's like the same thing that you can do manually. It's not automatically. So it's not like you're accessing more data because you're doing it automatically. It's just they don't like the speed at which it's being done. Huh. And so now I'm like, well, how important is LinkedIn to my life? I don't know.
Well, this is your mantra, right? This is another example of you were on someone else's property and now they've yanked it without you being able to do anything about it.
But I knew, right? So yeah. What do you call that? I feel the premonition. Do you know that one? That girl. So I had my girl once a month, I think once a week, download all my contacts. So in case something like this happens, I have all my emails, right? And I can now create a new account and just say, hey guys, LinkedIn blocked that one. Do you want to connect with me here? But I'm really wondering, I was like, do I need to do that? Like, there's not, I was streaming into LinkedIn, didn't get much out of that. I was posting, wasn't getting much engagement. Granted, I wasn't doing much over there, and so it's kind of like why you closed your Facebook page.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm like. So it's that thing of you being honest with yourself. Like if you're not putting in the time and the energy to make it work, then you're not, right? Like
my Instagram
it's not
account,
that LinkedIn doesn't work. Yeah. It's that it's not working for you because you're not right. So it's that thing of like we can't really be everywhere all the time effectively. Yeah. So if LinkedIn's not your thing, then it's not your thing, right?
And you know what? I was on a show today. I was interviewed with the social chefs, and we were talking about this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm launching a community next week. By the way, guys, watch out. So once I have my community and it's up and running, do I really need all these social media stuff? I don't think so. Like the activity is going to go even less because...
Yeah.
I don't need that. I got my people. I got my thing, right? Like, I don't need all this stuff. So will I be chasing people? Leads on LinkedIn? No. Is it good to have an account there? Maybe because everybody just, hey, found me on LinkedIn, when we do a professional introduction. But aside of that, like...
Well, again, it comes down to that idea of strategy versus tactics.
Yeah.
Right? It's so many people in business, the word strategy gets thrown around all the time and tactics almost never does, right? Yeah. So just because you have a strategy doesn't mean you have the actual tactical deployment that's going to get you the result you really want. And if
Right.
you don't have that, it's okay to admit that you, like, I have so many ways in which I think, oh, I'm trying to do, but I'm not really doing it tactically. I'm
Yeah.
not getting down to where the rubber meets the road and doing things that, and it's like, so you got to have that time. It's almost like, please bring in Marie Kondo to like, this year, the
clean up
declutter
all
lady,
that stuff.
right? Yeah. And be like, if this isn't doing it, just declutter it. Just get rid of it
Yeah.
and get down to like, do the one or two things that you know you're really good at and double down on what you know you're really good at
Yeah.
and stop worrying about not being as good at it as them in these other arenas.
And you know what's funny? It's like when you look at people who are successful, they're like, how to crush it with Instagram. It's just Instagram, right? How to crush it with LinkedIn. All they do is LinkedIn. How to crush it with webinars. All they do is webinars. They're not doing like how to crush it with webinars and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok, you know, right? It's just like this one thing that makes them the how to crush it with, right?
Yeah.
So maybe my how to crush it with is your website. How to crush it with your website and live streaming, right? Live streaming to your website. But yeah, so I don't know. So it'll be very interesting. I was like, I'm gonna not use LinkedIn for a while. Maybe have like, you know, a default account, just some on there. But
I dare you to not use LinkedIn for an entire year.
well, the only reason why I will create an account is just because, you know, like yesterday, someone sent me an introduction to someone. It was on LinkedIn, and I was like, I don't have LinkedIn, you know, so here's my phone number. But which was better, right? Because now, if you introduce me to someone, we have each other's phone numbers, and now we're chatting, and you
Right.
know, outside
Right.
of any platform,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know.
So, segue to our book today, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Can you imagine if Dale Carnegie saw like how people are like making friends and influencing each other today? Can you imagine? Like, I think his head would spin. I mean, it'd be amazing, right? Like,
But
I mean,
speaking
this
of
book,
wait. Speaking of books, today, 25 years ago, today, Amazon bookstore was created online. Just so you know.
really?
Yes. So for 25 years today is Amazon's bookstore birthday. And in celebration of Amazon bookstore birthday, happy birthday, Dale Carnegie book. Let's talk about Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a seminal book, you know, in the world of business and really personal development too. And it's sold over 50 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's incredible. And it's one of those books. It's funny. I put off reading this book for a long time because I have this weird, I don't know how this came into my life, but I have this thing where I get suspicious about movies or books or even songs that the mainstream says are cool. And so, like, I remember as bad as weird, like, I took a long time to watch Forrest Gump
Oh, how funny.
because people were like raving about it for so long. I don't know, but this is in the book world. I put off reading about this book for a long time. And then I finally read it and I was like, that was stupid of me, which is the same thing. I loved Forrest Gump. I was like, that is stupid of me. Like it's a great book. And the thing that's crazy about this book is a great example of how sometimes we don't need to learn anything new. We need to be reminded of what we already know.
Yeah.
And this book is a truly, I think, a fantastic example of that. Like, this book did not teach me, I don't know if it taught me anything. If it taught me anything, it taught me very little. What it did was it reminded me of the importance of these foundational concepts about how to treat people and how to think about people. Because I think what we do is we get naturally, in all areas of life, human beings are self-centered, right? We have this preservational instinct thing with ego, and then in business, especially, like when we get into business mode, we get into, what do I do so I can get found, and what do I do so I can get noticed, and how do I make more money, and right? And we're doing all this, and you go, yeah, but the whole point of being in business is you're supposed to be doing something for someone else. You're supposed to be solving someone else's problem. You're supposed to be a solution for someone else, right? And so that can't just be at the intellectual, well, yeah, I know that. No, but do you live that?
Right.
Do you really go through your day to day? And that's what Carnegie brings up so well. And it was funny. I was laughing when I read this book. You thought, I actually didn't buy the book. I bought it on audio. So I'm listening to this guy read it. And it's funnier to hear someone read it because there's these points where Carnegie's like, and for how old this book is, I was like, man, this is back when like manners were even more important than today. Carnegie like had lines like, "You self-righteous twit." Like where he talk about, I remember he talking about this.
So he was like the Gary V of that time.
Yeah, right? The like politest Gary V ever, sort of. Yeah. Like, but he had the example of like, he got a letter, and the letter was from a sales executive who basically framed the whole letter in terms of like, what we do is really important, and if you want to be part of it, you need to get this to us right away. Right? It was all like, come on.
Did he just like raise his glasses a little bit like this?
Right? And that's what he said. He goes, what makes you think I would ever want to do business with you when you approach me this way? Like, if you're so important, like, why do you even need me?
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Right?
Like
Yeah.
that's, you know, like, and so there's examples of that kind of stuff over and over again. There's another great story in that so Carnegie used to teach these classes, right? He didn't just write the book. He would teach these classes where he'd work with business people to get them to like really find where the rubber meets the road on this stuff. And so one week he's talked about this student who came in and brought a letter that had come to him to his office. And it was a letter from the company that, so the guy owned a company that made something, and they worked with this company that was a shipping company. They were the logistics company, right? And so the logistics company had sent them a letter that basically said, listen, you keep dropping off your stuff in the afternoon, and that's like our busiest time of day. And so if you would just come in the morning, like drop your stuff off first thing in the morning, then we can be sure we process it and get it out the same day and keep our quality of service to you. But the way that it was phrased was like, you're inconveniencing, even though they didn't say this, he said the clear tone was, you're inconveniencing us, and so can't you just do something, you know? And so what they did in the class was they went and they redrafted the letter for how you could get the same thing done without pissing off the client, right? And make it about, we want to provide you with excellent service. We want to make sure that your stuff gets where it's supposed to go, you know?
So it's always about kind of like outcome, right? Like what's the like everybody's listening to the like, what's in it for me radio station, right? What is it, like the WMFM thingy, right? So we're all listening to that frequency, like what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. And if you're talking from their perspective, then they can listen. But if you're talking from your perspective, then it comes out as rude, right?
Right. And that's again, it's like, so I get simultaneously, like we all have a tendency to think of ourselves first, right? What do I need? What do I want? How can I get what I need or want? But the whole thing is business is a relationship, right? And in relationships, we can't just think about ourselves all the time. We got to think about others. So that book breaks down all the different ways that people do that and talks about the ways that you can sort of unlearn that. And I just think it's a great book to have you get reminded so you can step back into that mindset again, because you're only human if you drift away from it. You know, It's not like you're a bad person. You're a human being, and you're gonna have times when you drift out of that mindset.
So you know what's interesting about that, and it's always like my dad always used to say, it's not what you say, it's what they hear, right? And the challenge with that is that I have no control over what you hear, right? So I can say airplane and you're like, oh my God, crash, death, horrible things, right? Or I can say airplane and you go like vacation, right? First class, pampering. So I have no control over what you hear when I say that. And that's always to me has been the issue of like, how do I communicate in a way that you hear me if I don't know what you're hearing?
That's a great point, Ifat, and it's, I think, more than ever with what we have going on right now, right? We're in a heightened state of stress all the time. We're afraid about the pandemic. We're afraid about the social justice movement. We're afraid about all this different stuff, right? And we're constantly at risk of angering someone, right? Or offending someone. And so I think it's like, this is another classic theme I come up with again and again, is like, we have an instinct to look for the truth with a capital T, right? But there is no such thing. There is no truth in this world with a capital T that holds up 100% of the time. There are lots of little t truths, right?
Yeah.
Which are, they are true. They are not absolutely true. And the part that's hard for people to understand is they can exist in parallel with an opposing truth, right? Like, you can say this thing is true and this thing is true, and they seem like they contradict each other, but they don't. They're just coexisting. And it comes down to it. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, I can say something, my intention does not guarantee your interpretation of what I say.
Right.
My intention exists as a truth. Your interpretation exists as a truth. They can be two totally different things, and still they are true. And this is what people have seemed to have completely lost, right? Is the ability to see that happening, and to just not react, but to go, okay, what's going on there? And ask a clarifying question, try to determine what's happening.
This is really interesting, because when we're getting into the realms of self-confidence, self-doubt, right? So judgment. So when someone says something and you go like, you feel judged, then you have a very hard time asking clarifying questions, right? Especially if you have very low self-esteem, and in your brain everybody's attacking you the whole time, and like all the stories that are running in your head. So it's a fantastic book. I think it's not as easy to implement as it may seem. because we're human.
There's so many things going on, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the thing, is there's a lot going on. But what I think Carnegie does do well, that should be really easy to implement, is he just basically keeps reminding us, stop thinking about yourself all the time. Stop thinking about yourself, like, right? And we go, whether you're of pretty much any religion in the world, that's a theme which you've been taught since you were very, very small, right? Is think of others, be compassionate, be kind.
Yeah.
It's like it's in the religion, it's in cultures, it's in business, it's all around us, and yet we just forget, or we get out of that space. And so I think that's the great thing is again, it's that powerful reminder of, like, it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, a billion, like Jeff Bezos, right? Like, you go, happy 25th anniversary. And you should still be thinking about how to be kind to other people.
Which he is, right? Amazon is all about the customer. I don't know him, but... right? Well, the customer is like, Amazon is very customer centered, if you will, which is why they're doing so well, right? As opposed to Google, who does not listen to their customers, or Facebook that doesn't listen to their customers, and people are leaving them. So there's a lot of stuff that's like really interesting in the book, right? Like, don't criticize, right? Like, don't complain, give an honest appreciation. I'll
tell you, one of the biggest ones is stop arguing with people, right? He's got a whole chapter that says stop arguing with people, because, like, what have you ever accomplished through arguing? Like, and he gives several illustrations in the chapter, right? And that's so, like, look at the way social media exists now, right? It's constantly people arguing as if they're going to have the other person go, you know what, you're right. Okay,
so as a hypnotherapist, right, who's very sensitive to words, what's the difference between arguing and discussing?
Arguing, in my mind, arguing implies the desire to win the argument.
Okay.
Discussing is more exploratory. So, like, right now, we're discussing that concept. You haven't told me what arguing is, and I'm trying to convince you it's something else. Then we'd be arguing, right? We're discussing the idea.
So what if in your mind you feel like we're arguing, and in my world we're discussing it?
Well, again, you'd have to get into, there could be a number of variations on that. That's a great question. I think sometimes, like, okay, some people think I like to debate. I don't want to argue. I just like to debate. I like to explore ideas. Yeah, but you know what? If you were ever part of a debate team, you know that really that's a polite word for arguing. They literally score you points on how well you debated, right? There's a winner and a loser.
Right.
So that's where it's like we got to be careful about trying to rationalize semantically our behaviors. And so I think your initial thing of like, are you discussing, are you exploring, or are you arguing? And again, just that the central piece is like, we see it all the time now, right? Like the minute you start arguing with someone, you've lost them, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's a great thing in that chapter about, he talks about Benjamin Franklin and how Benjamin Franklin, he was so smart, right? Benjamin Franklin learned early on in life that his intelligence often intimidated people. And if he wasn't careful how he used it, people hated him because they felt like he thought he was better than them because he was smarter and right. And when he was younger, he liked to debate about things because it gave him a way to exercise his intelligence. And he discovered he was losing way more people than he was gaining that way.
Yeah.
And so as he grew older and he got into politics and diplomacy, he became a skilled diplomat because he learned how to stop using language that clearly signified that he was trying to win a point. And instead, he learned how to use language that was always about, I'm just trying to explore an idea.
Yeah.
And that as he did that, he found that people were way, way more receptive to him and that he could actually have productive conversations with people.
It's very interesting, right? Because like there's a lot of great points there about beginning in a friendly way, smiling, right? Trying to understand other people, seeing them from their own point of view, from their own perspective. And it's really funny because that's kind of like the negotiation skills that people always talk about, right? If you want to negotiate something and actually win a negotiation, then these are the ways that you're going to be speaking in order to do that. And which really is great. Roland, I remember, was talking about that in his course where he goes like, you ask the seller what will be a win for him. So if like someone who's selling their company, if you want to come in and find out like a good deal for you, one of the question is, what are you going to do with the money? And if you can help them achieve what they want with less money, then you can offer them less, or you can come in as an advisor, or you can take a percentage to help them grow the business. Like if someone comes in with the intention, hey, I want to sell the business because I want to achieve X, if you can help them achieve X without selling the business or without getting paid first, then you have an advantage. But you have an advantage because you know what the other person wants to achieve and you help them achieve it in different creative ways.
Yeah.
Which most of the time we don't think about it. You go like, oh, you want to sell the business. How much? Okay, let's worry about the price, right? Where in reality, you can be a lot more creative and get a win-win if you understand the layers underneath. And it sounds like what you're saying is like in every communication, understand the layers underneath, what the person is trying to achieve, where they're coming from, what their point of view is. And then the conversation will be better and you'll win friends and influence people, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I know that you're on a time constraint today, so I want to keep you honest. It looks like we're out of time.
Yes, and so I just want to say to Kari, what is that? Karen has commented. She said she loves the book. Ahmed said it's a great idea. Well, guess what, you guys? You are not here. You're on our wheel. Not this one. It always does it to me.
You're on the wheel of
Canva.
Stuart, who wrote The Magic of Rapport? He recommended a book called The Magic of Rapport.
I don't know who that is, but
yeah, I actually, it's funny. I'm a hypnotist, and like I've never met anyone who uses the word rapport as much as hypnotists, and I actually haven't heard of that book. That's interesting.
All right. So mañana, happy hour mañana.
Tomorrow, happy hour.
Join us.
We're gonna do something fun. I don't know what yet, but
and we'll spin the wheel
awesome.
and we'll show you who wins. So join us.
Hey, If you enjoyed today's episode, come back and spend more time with us. You could be on the broadcast sharing your thoughts. We hang out live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern at www.bethenakedtruth.com/live.